Hey everyone, welcome to Average Joe Preparedness. My name's Rick, and I'm an Average Joe. Today's video, we're going to cover two topics, and it's probably going to be split into two videos, depending on how long it is. The first subject we're going to cover is what's going on in the world, our protests, and more specifically, what to do if you come into contact or close proximity to a large gathering like that, to a protest. The second one, tying to it, is going to be the gray man concept. I don't know if you've heard of it. You can Google it and find out in detail, but we'll talk about it. So, probably two videos. Again, initially the protests or large gatherings or whatever word you want to use, and then we're going to go ahead and go into the gray man concept. Once again, I'll remind you, these videos are for normal people, just average Joes and Janes, just the regular people on the streets, not anyone over here or anyone over there. I mean, you guys can watch the videos if you want, but they're not really geared towards you. You might not find them exciting. So these videos are for average people. Now, as I've mentioned before, I was in the military for a while, and they actually train us. They give us information, they give us training classes in, I guess we're going to say when there's, I don't want to say riots, I want to say peaceful demonstrations, I guess. It doesn't matter how you look at it, it's this side or that side. But what do you do when you're confronted by a large group of people who are very emotional? You with me so far? Now, the best recommendation I can give you, the first one that's going to come to mind is don't be there. It's that simple. It's simply avoid it. Don't be there. Nothing bad can happen to you if you aren't there when something potentially bad could happen. I'm not saying that all protests lead to something bad happening. I'm just going with the odds. I go with the numbers. When you have a large group of emotional people, there tends to be a high potential for things to go wrong. And so don't be there. That's the first thing, avoidance. Now, if you want to go, and we'll discuss this in a second, times I have, if you want to go to these protests, okay, I'm not going to stop you. There's precautions, which we'll get into here in just a minute. But first step, avoidance. Just don't go there. Okay, second bit of advice. If you didn't know it was happening and you came upon it accidentally, you're just going about your business, you drive around the corner, there it is, or you walk around the corner, there it is. Okay, what do you do now? Simple. Leave. Just leave. Just turn around. Go the other way. Don't run. Just turn and walk. Walk away. Keep an eye on it, peripheral vision, look over your shoulder, make sure you know where it's at. Don't run. Don't blame me for this, but it's like a pack of dogs. If you run, they're going to chase you. They don't care. They're not going to care. It's a mob, for lack of a better term. I hate to say it, but a mob has its own mentality. It has its own thing. We'll get into it here in a second. When they use the term mob mentality, it's actual a thing. But so if you come around the corner, you turn around and you leave. It's just that simple. Now again, if you run into this situation, hopefully what will help you out is there is nothing about you that you can control that paints you as whomever this is, whatever it is that they're protesting, or as the enemy, as the people on the other side. So, and we'll get into that in the gray man concept, where you don't look like anyone's enemy. If you walk around and you wear certain attires that say certain things, that have certain logos on them, certain sayings that are really cool, hot button topics right now, during this time frame, I can't help you, okay? My recommendation is you leave that stuff at home. When you're out shopping or going to the bank or running around taking care of your business, especially in today's environment, that is not the time or the place for you to express your opinions if you just want to go about your life. Now, I'm sure there's many out there that would disagree. They would say, hey, Rick, I'll do what I want, when I want, and how I want it. Okay, that's cool. You do that. You go with your bad self. However, it's going to get you into trouble, potentially. if you watch the news, you're gonna see it. That's just the way of it. And again, should, would, and could, we've talked about that in another video. This is and are. So I'm talking to normal people, just regular people. Do not wear those things. Do not wear things that make you stick out. Again, we'll talk about it in the gray man concept. But don't do it, because it's gonna make you a target. So avoid them. If you see one, leave. And if you get too close, just hopefully, you don't stick out and you have an opportunity at your soonest opportunity to get away from the situation. Now, a couple stories about real world experience that I'll share with you, that I can share with you. One of them was, we were not here in the States, and I had most of my family with me. I had my eldest son and I had my youngest son. And there were protests going on close to where we were. And so I took the boys and I'm like, okay, I'm going to show you something. They were young. One was in high school, one was in grade school, different age groups. And I said, come on, let's go look at this. So we walked as close as we could get to this protest. We were actually approached by armed officials, and they were like, you shouldn't go any closer. I said, okay, cool beans. We're kind of up on a hill looking down on it. We could see what was going on. And I wanted my sons to watch this, to see that I support and defend individuals' right to peacefully protest. Now, the key here is peacefully protest. I think it's actually written in the Constitution. Doesn't matter. But you can tell, and people, again, in these videos, logical thinking, changing your mindset, these are steps, and you need to think logically so you are not caught by surprise by things. So we're sitting there watching, and it was a nice, peaceful demonstration, and everything was wonderful. And then I told my boys, watch what's gonna happen next. Because if you cannot see what's gonna happen, if you cannot, no offense to you, but you're an idiot, okay? When the protesters show up, when another group of protesters come in and they show up and they're wearing the masks and the helmets and they're carrying shields and signs that are put on bats, you know what I mean, and steel poles, and it's a setup, people. You know what's about to happen. If you're ignorant of that and you're still involved in that, and then you sit around and go, what the heck happened? I didn't know this was, no offense, but you're not the brightest bulb in the box. So I told my sons, I said, hey, watch what's gonna happen. And of course, everything is predictable if you just look at it without emotion. No emotion to it, it's just math. When individuals show up dressed in that attire, as a group, you know it's going to happen. Well, no, you don't know it's gonna happen, Rick. Oh, holy heck yes I do. Okay, and so do you. You're lying to yourself, that's your business. This is for normal people. I want the normal average persons out there. When you see people coming, and they're wearing helmets and shields and carrying things that can easily be used as weapons, if you don't know what's going to happen, you are fooling yourself, and you need to get out of that situation. Anyways, back to my kids. I said, hey, watch what's going to happen. And basically, they started, the peaceful protest turned into a mob. Now, whether those people that were peacefully protesting wanted that to happen or not, it doesn't matter. A side note here. If you go and you peacefully protest, and again, I support and defend that, and I will from now until forever, and people show up and they're on your side and they're wearing helmets and carrying shields and wearing, padding, and you don't do anything about it, if you don't walk away or if you don't stop them, okay, guess what? Yeah, you've just lost all credibility. You're not going to be able to keep it. No one's going to listen to you. You can cry all you want and say, oh no, it was them and it wasn't us and we wanted to be people. Did you stop it? Did you stop it from happening? You knew it was going to happen. No, I didn't. Well, then you're an idiot, okay? You're a fool and you just lost all your credibility, okay? Do you see what I'm saying? Everything you were doing, all your peaceful protesting, no one's listening to that anymore because of what you allowed to happen, what you formed, what you grew, and what you caused to happen. Okay, getting off my soapbox. So what did happen was it turned to and again, we weren't here in the States. So what happened was law enforcement came in on their horses, they came in with their sticks, And basically they just beat them all to a pulp. You with me? And I'm sitting there telling my kids, yeah, this is what happens if you don't do things right. My youngest one, and he's done this at least twice in his life, just from the mouths of babes. You get this wisdom that just happens. And this was one of them. And there may have been more than two, but I think there's at least two that I can remember. And he looked down at it happening, and he looked up at me, and he looked back down at it happening, and he looked up at me, and he said, it's really small, and he said, Dad, that's just stupid. And I said, well, I agree with you, but, don't say stupid around your mom. You're not supposed to use those words. So let's not, but he was right. It was stupid. Now, somebody might say, well, you brought your kids into that situation. That wasn't very smart of you, and you didn't take their... Hold on a second, back up, let me explain. So we were here. There was a vehicle that stopped us from going any further that had armed military personnel. And then down the hill was a barrier of armed military personnel, and there was physical barriers between us and them. Then there were the peaceful protesters with the local law enforcement surrounding them. So it was the local police, then there was barriers, there was military members, and then we had our own personal military guards standing right next to us. And we weren't that close. I figure maybe, 100 yards, 150 yards. Enough distance that we could, if anything was to happen, we could leave. So don't think I just walked my kids into a situation and put them in danger. They were in no danger. I wasn't going to let that happen. Okay? So just so we're clear. Okay, getting into the mob mentality. And again, I'm not saying all peaceful protests turn into one, but lately that seems to be trending. So we're just going to go with that. I'm going to go with what I know. I'm going to go with what's going on. That's the reason why this video come up, or I wouldn't have done this video, but for what's actually happening in the world. Mob mentality. Now, I took, again, my youngest son, stick with me on these stories. Later on in life, he was like a teenager. He wanted to go to a all-day concert. If you guys heard of those, and they have all these bands, and they just keep changing the bands out. There's like 2 venues, and then this band would play while they're changing out this one, and this one band would play, and they change out this one, and this band, and this band, and this band. And then the bands get more and more popular until the headliners play at the end. I'm sure there's a name for it, don't know, but anyways, my son wanted to go to that. His mother was not very happy about it because of his age and because of a medical condition he had that was completely fine, and he was healed, but she still had her concerns. So, guess who ended up going with him? Now, obviously, I couldn't let anything happen to my son because, well, he's my son and I love him, but his mother would never forgive me. So I had to kind of stay close to him. And as the day wore on, I had to get closer. I would stay kind of far back and let him hang out with his friends, and I would always keep an eye on him. But then as the day wore on, time wears on, people wear on and wear down, and their excitement built. So eventually there were mosh pits. I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. This was a while back. So mosh pits, and that was the concern that his mother had, and obviously it's a current concern for anybody who's around him who doesn't want to be involved in them. But I use it as an opportunity to teach my son and his friends. I was having to actually watch out for, he was like 4 or 5 small children. But I use it as an opportunity. In which case, I taught them that a mob of people is a thing. Once people get into a mob, once they get the mob mentality, they are no longer individuals. It's just the way of it. Sorry if that offends anybody. So I could actually show him and his friends, I could point out and I'd be like, guess what? Watch this. You ready? A mosh pit is getting ready to form right there. And boom, it would happen. And then the mosh pit, so we'd moved a little bit, and there it was. And I'm like, I could tell them where, I would say, we're moving over this way. You can tell which way it's going to go. When you stop looking at people as individuals, once they get into a mob, and start looking at it as its own organism, it's a thing, it is a living thing, then you can kind of predict what's going to happen. And then that mosh pit would die down, and I would be like, okay, move over here a little bit. We're going to move over here because guess what? Another one's going to form right over there. And boom, it would happen. People are, when you look at them the right way, people are predictable. Now, it's that predictability that can help you, the average person. If you know what to look for, if you know what to watch for, listen for, if you know what to feel once you're there, These things can keep you out of trouble. Now, the people involved, I can't help them. They're adults, they're grown-ups. They've made the choice. I can't help them. I have no, I hate to say it, but I have no empathy for them. I have no sympathy. They get themselves involved. This is for the rest of you. This is for everybody else who just wants to go about their life, who just wants to live life and not have to deal with these kind of things. If and when you are confronted with these, the predictability of people can help you. So, again, avoid them. Leave if they happen. And if not, if you're stuck in them, stop looking at individuals as individuals and start looking at it as a living being that is predictable in what it's going to do. Stop looking at the individual pieces. Look at the overall view of it. And you'll be able to see and feel what's going to happen. Okay, another story of a protest that I went to on my own. And I actually did it intentionally and actually got into it intentionally. Because some people would say I'm the smartest guy in the world or brightest bulb in the box, but sometimes you actually have to go to get a feel for things. You have to understand, because you can see it on TV, you can see it on your Facebook feed, you can see it on Twitter, whatever. But until you actually know what's going on, until you actually put hands on, but I wasn't hands on, I was actually there, you're not actually going to get the gist of it. And you only usually got to do it once. And I don't recommend it for everybody. I'm an individual, I took the chance. So, what was happening was one of the presidents, doesn't matter who, was visiting the local big city around here, doesn't matter where, and a lot of people weren't happy about it. So I had some free time, and I'm like, hey, see a president? That doesn't happen very often, once or twice in my life. So I think I'm gonna go check it out. Now, most places that they're going to do the protest are determined. They're determinable, they're predictable. What I mean by that are, in a city, usually it's at the Capitol, or there's a building, there's a location that it's going to happen. And that's going back to avoiding it. If you avoid those things, especially when there's a lot of excited people, you can usually avoid those situations. So that's what was happening. It was happening at the Capitol, which is down in the city. So what I did was I went into the city and I parked far away. I think I was like 2 miles, maybe, give or take. 2 miles away from where it was going to happen. I parked my vehicle in a very safe place. I got my little ticket. It was actually a car parking thing that's insured and has a guard, so I don't have to worry about it. I was wearing very nondescript clothing. I could basically fit in downtown. I didn't stick out in any way whatsoever. I was just like an average Joe. Now, that being said, my shoes were actually safety-toed shoes. You wouldn't see them, or you would know it by seeing them, those kind. And they look kind of trendy, like bootish, sort of, but not like boots. And it was cold, so I was wearing multiple layers of clothes to keep myself warm, but more importantly, in this situation, for padding, in case something bad happened. I didn't carry a lot of stuff with me. I didn't have like the backpack, and no, because if I have to move quickly, I am going to move quickly. I wore sunglasses that were nondescript. They were just regular sunglasses. I wore a hat that said nothing. Just a blank hat that, again, anybody could just normally. If I walked past you, for the most part, you wouldn't even look at me twice. I was basically no one. I went and got me a vanilla latte grande at one of the local baristas down there, and I carried it around, so I didn't stick out at all. I looked like one of the people that lived there. Yes. So I went up to the Capitol where people were protesting before the president arrived. I got there about 15 or 20 minutes before he arrived. And I stayed on the edge, not like I'm like, whoa, I'm way back here. No, I just walked around and I engaged people with my eyes, not like staring them down, but just normal eye contact. I didn't engage anyone in conversation. I looked at the signs they were carrying. I listened to what they said. Again, I was constantly on the move. I never stayed in one place. And when part of the group would get excited, I would gently walk away, just, again, if anyone noticed from the outside, I wasn't running. I just happened to be walking in this direction. And I just happened to miss what was going on over there. Gosh darn it, I just missed it. And that is what I did for like 15, 20 minutes before the president arrived. Now, he actually came in a different location, a different direction because of these guys. And everybody was pretty upset they didn't get to see him arrive. Well, he was doing an indoor venue and everybody had their phones out. I had my phone out too and I'm watching. It was like on the regular, I was just like everybody else, sipping my latte, standing there in regular clothes, just walking around with everybody else. I wasn't fighting. There was people arguing with each other, different sides of the spectrum, which I thought was silly. You're not going to change anyone's mind. It's dumb to engage them, but okay, whatever, cool bean. And I'm watching what's going on inside the building on my phone, just like everybody else. And then I took this time, I actually walked all the way around the Capitol. I saw all the places I could come in, go out, leave, where security was, where security wasn't so much. I mean, security was everywhere, and I could actually tell where the president came in, and I kind of figured out where he was going to leave, but I didn't share that information with anybody. I just walked all the way back around and waited and sat there in the middle and listened. Now, eventually they figured out he was getting ready to leave. They knew it wasn't here, so the crowd started moving around the side of the building where the president motorcade was probably going to go. And so I went with him. I was towards the end of it. I'm not getting in that crowd. That's just silly. And I'm definitely not going to be in the front of it because that's just asking for trouble. I just wanted to see. I needed the experience for myself to see what was going on. What were these people doing? What was the point? And it was just silly, but the experience was worth it. I walked with them. The president's motorcade left. I didn't wave. I didn't shout. I didn't stick out. Everybody's like, and I'm filming. Actually, because that's what a lot of people are doing. They're just filming. So I look like just everybody else, holding my latte and filming the crowds. And, there's the motorcade and just seeing what's going on. And it was only just like a minute and it was over with. And once it was finished, I left. I walked back around with a lot of the people. I wasn't in the crowd. I'm on the peripherals. I walked back down. I didn't engage people. They were arguing and fighting again, different sides, proving nothing, doing nothing. It doesn't do anything for you. You're not changing these people. It's just asinine as far as I'm concerned. And for you regular people out there, do not engage. Just walk away, Don't be rude. Just act like I didn't hear you. I'm just going to keep, and I'm walking with my coffee and I'm just good. I'm sorry, my bad, I miss you and I got to go somewhere. And I walked down, got into my car, got my car, went to leave. Luckily, I was listening to the radio and I knew that they had gone and now they're blocking the road. They're going to block. And so I avoided it. I went somewhere else and I left. And basically that's the end of the story. Now, personally, I don't recommend going to these things because there is a potential for things to go wrong. I did it. I owned it. I took full responsibility. Luckily for me, nothing bad happened. I did get to see these people, listen to these people, see what they were protesting, hear what they were protesting about, hear their logic. I didn't have to engage them. They were engaging with each other or engaging with other people that were trying to change their mind, which I thought was silly, but okay, whatever. Because once again, you can't, the videos and television and all that, it's not real. I mean, it's not the real thing. It's a perspective and it's close, but it's not reality. Reality, you have to feel and touch and smell and be there. So I needed that. I'm not recommending it for anybody else. I'm just letting you know why I had to go. Okay, let's recap real quick. Should be very simple. When it comes to protests, which have the potential, and all of them do, which have the potential to turn into something ugly, avoid them. I'm talking to just the regular people out there, not the people over here, not the people over there. Those guys are going to do what they're going to do. I'm talking about just the normal people out there. Avoid them. Avoid where they're going to happen. The capitals, the mayor's office, now it's the police and the federal buildings. Just stay away from them if you can. And usually it's the big cities. If you can avoid big cities, avoid them. Because that's potentially, if you go with the numbers, that's where they happen. So stay away from them. Pay attention to what's going on around you. Listen to local radio stations while you're driving in your car. Not that, your MP4 player or your TV or downstreaming, whatever. Know what's going on around you. You have to have situational awareness. For those of you who get caught up in one, like I said, you drive around a corner, you come around a corner, maybe they didn't know it was going to happen. It's like one of those flash mobs where they're just going to make it happen and not let anybody know, so that way the police aren't, whatever. Just walk away, drive away. calm, cool, collective, just get away from it and just keep on going. Don't sit there, don't be a looky-loo, oh man, I wonder what's going on. Yeah, you're asking for trouble. Just avoid it if you want to take care of yourself. And that's what you need to do. All these things are focused on you. You need to take care of yourself so you can take care of other people, your situation, but you need to take care of you first. And you can't do that if you're in the middle of what could highly potentially turn out to be something negative. So avoid it. If you come into it, you leave. Please maintain a persona that does not offend. Well, I can do whatever. I know. I'm just giving you some advice. Don't do it. Now with that, I'm going to transition into the gray man concept. See how that worked? That was pretty cool, right? The gray man concept was probably going to be the second video. I'm going to try to keep these 2 different videos so it doesn't get really long. So stay tuned for it. I should be posting it right after this one. It should be like a part 1 and a part 2. But just in case I messed something up, yes, do me a favor, like, subscribe, comment, yes, and stay happy, stay positive, and be prepared.